I was asked in the week how I would go about piping foxgloves, so I've had a little go and I've made a little woodland themed cake. So we've got foxgloves, a primrose and some wood anemones. There's these cute little white flowers, and I've scattered about some of these little purple flowers just because I had some leftover buttercream. So I'm going to show you how I did all of this. Now when I do tall things on a cupcake, I'm not keen on lots and lots of buttercream, so I don't pipe a big tall cone with buttercream. I use these tall biscuits. They're called Mikado in the UK, so I use one of those for anything tall. It just means you've got less buttercream and it's a little bit more stable as well, especially in the summer. So you want to crumb coat your cupcake with green, and you want to take off this part of the biscuit because it goes soggy. That goes into the sponge or it gets any buttercream on it. That part goes soggy, whereas this chocolate covered part is protected. So I'm just going to take off that bottom piece and I'm going to pop this into the cupcake. So I'm going to come in from the edge a little bit and just poke it in. So it's quite a way down into the cupcake, it's quite stable, and I've got this nice tall part poking out to work on. Now the piping tips I'm using for the foxgloves, this is a sort of medium size or medium to large size round piping tip. It came in an old set that I had 30 odd years ago, I think. It hasn't got a number on it. It measures 10 millimeters across. So you want one that's at least 10 millimeters across so that it goes over the biscuit and it's quite fat. It will give it some covering all round. The other piping tips I'm going to use for the flowers, I've got a Wilton 80, that's crescent shaped one, and I've got a number 3 round. And the other piping tip I'm going to use with the green is a number 3 round piping tip. So I'm going to start off with the large round. Tighten up your bag and you want to put it straight over your biscuit all the way down to the bottom, and then squeeze out a base. So you want it quite fat. Keep squeezing as you come up the biscuit, and then when you get to the top you just stop and come off. So that's my base done. Now for the flowers, take up your number 80, push all your buttercream down to the bottom, tighten up your bag. You want to make sure you've got this crescent shape in the middle so that it's pointing upwards, so you've got it like a smile. Now to start putting the flowers on, I'm going to come up from the bottom a little bit, about a centimetre. I'm going to touch down on the green and pull downwards, stop and come off. Turn the cake, come right next to it and do the same thing again. So I'm going to touch, squeeze, then pull downwards, stop, come off. Turn the cake, come next to it, touch, squeeze, pull down, stop, come off. And then I think I'll get another 2 on here. That. Like that. Now I want to turn the piping tip up the other way, so it's more of a sort of rainbow arch. And I'm going to come over the top of each one of these. So I'm going to touch down on the green, squeeze, pull out a little bit, stop and come off. And I've made it shorter than the bit underneath. Turn the cake and do the same thing to all of them. So touch, squeeze, stop, come off. Touch, squeeze, stop, come off. When you touch down on that green, going really gently, you want to make sure that you squeeze enough out for it to stick and then start to pull out, stop and come off. First row. Now turn it up to the smile again. I'm going to come in between each one. You can turn the cake and hold it at any angle you need to. I'm going to come up a little bit from those so that I can pull downwards. I'm going to touch, squeeze, pull down, stop, come off. Turn the cake, same again. So I'm coming in between the ones I've already put on. Always turn the cake so that your piping hand's in the right place and it's comfortable. And when you've gone all the way around, turn your tip upside down and put the tops on. Remember to make them a little bit shorter than the bottom bit. So just touch, squeeze, pull out, stop, come off. Let it anchor onto that cake. And do another row. So turn your tip up to the smile. Come up a little bit from that row so you can pull downwards. So touch, squeeze, pull out, stop, come off. And I'm aiming to go between each one, but obviously as we're going up, you start to run out of space. You just want to go around until you've gone all the way. Turn your tip upside down. And pop a little top on. Touch, squeeze, stop, come off. There are my flowers on. Now I want to make some buds. So I'm going to use a number 3 round with my green to make some buds at the top. And I'm just going to touch, squeeze out a large blob, stop and come off. Same again. Go around that biscuit and just pop them in. And then I'm going to pop in some in between. So I'm just touching down, squeeze out a blob, stop and come off. And then I've put in 2 rows, so now I'm just going to squeeze out a little blob and pull upwards and come in between each one. Up to the top. And then come in between each one. Pull it up. All the way to the top. So you've made lots of little buds that are not quite flowered yet. And then in the larger buds that we made, take up your flower colour with your number 3 round, and you want to put that just inside that blob, squeeze until it opens, stop and come off. So you're making some little buds, and by doing it with the green first and putting the piping tip in the green, it's like the berries, you get that lovely green outline. If you want to put one more little detail in, I had some plain buttercream here in a number 1 round. You can just add a little stamen in each flower if you want to. It's not essential. It's just if you've got it and you want to add it in, it's a little bit of added detail. And you can see by using the biscuit to get the height, I'm able to move the cake at more of an angle for me to work on. So there's my take on foxgloves. Now I'm going to add a little pansy in the middle here. So I'm just going to take up my green and make myself a little ring for it to sit up on. So I'm going to come around, just draw a ring. As the base for your flower. Now the piping tip I'm using for the petals is a GG 101. It's just this long, thin, or short, thin piping tip. There's no reason I'm using the plastic one, it's just the first one I had to load up. You can use the metal one, it does exactly the same thing. So you want the GG 101, it's just the short, thin piping tip. The short end forms the edges of the petals, and the long end acts as your base. The colour I've used here is just a tiny little bit of Colour Splash yellow. So push all your buttercream down to the bottom, tighten up your bag, make sure you've got that long bit at the bottom. Now the petal shapes I'm going to make is like a little heart shape. So as a pipe, I'm going to pipe a petal and make a little heart shape at the top. So I'm going to come in the middle of my base here, squeeze and make a heart shape, stop and come off. And then turn the cake, do the same thing again, so come into the middle, squeeze a heart shape, turn the cake, make a heart shape, and again. Now when you come to this, you're going to have to maneuver so that you don't knock it down. So you can move your piping tip at different angles to get around. I'm going to put one more layer on. So I'm just coming over the top and I'm doing exactly the same thing, just make a little heart shape. Last ones, mind your foxgloves, like that. In the center, I'm just going to take up my number 3 round and just pop a little stamen coming out the middle like that. So for some tiny stamen around that, I've got here number 1 round, and I've just made the colour yellow a little bit darker. Nice tight bag. And I'm going to add some stamen. I'm holding the bag slightly differently so that I can keep out of the way of my foxglove. And you just want to come in and go around adding little stamens around that green to cover the gap. Now in these gaps here, I'm going to add some wood anemone. So I'll take up my number 3 round again with my green. And I'm going to add a couple more base circles in here. So just draw a circle round to give your flower something to sit on and something to stick to. And then another one in here. Just go around and make a circle. And that's it. And the piping tip I'm using is again another Wilton 80. So make sure your bag's nice and tight and that you've got this crescent shape in the middle so you get the right shaped petal. Then it's a bit awkward with your foxgloves in the way, but just manoeuvre your hand round. I'm going to come in the middle of that circle, squeeze and pull up a longish petal, stop and come off. Turn the cake, and then I'm going to come right next to it and add another one. So touch down, squeeze, lift, stop and come off. I'm going to keep turning the cake and I'm going to add 5 of these all together. And last one in here. I always like to start with the most awkward one and then I can work around it. So we'll do the other side now, and probably the most awkward one's going to be here. So touch down, squeeze, lift and come off. And again, you want to make sure you squeeze quite a fat petal out so that it stands up. Last one in here. For the centres, I'm taking up the green again. Make sure you've got a nice clean tip, and I'm just going to put a little stamen in the centre. So you just touch, squeeze, lift, come off. And then I'll use that same yellow again with the number 1 round. This tiny little one for some little stamens. And I'm just going to add them all around that green. And then this one, make sure you mind your foxgloves. I'm holding the bag slightly differently so that I haven't got my fingers in the way. It can be fiddly doing these little gardens, but they're so worth it when they come together. So there's my flowers done. Now to fill in these gaps, I'm just going to use this number 3 round piping tip to add some spiky leaves. So make sure it's nice and tight. And I'll just come in between the flowers where there's any gaps. Touch down, squeeze, lift, come off. And they can be all different heights, all different sizes, just to cover up the cupcake. If you wanted to do it quicker, you could use the 352 leaf tip and pop in some leaves. I've got nice soft buttercream, so it's really easy to squeeze. There's all the gaps filled. And then just to add a little pop of colour in between that green. Got here, I'm just going to make sure it's not clogged. Move that out of the way. So I've got here the 225 piping tip. It's the little drop flower nozzle. So make sure your bag's nice and tight. And I'm just going to poke it in between these little spiky leaves, squeeze, and then come off. So I'm adding random little flowers, and I have got a blockage in here, so I'm just going to squeeze that out onto a paper towel till it's all coming out clear. So that's a good way to always have your paper towel handy, because if you can wipe off your nozzle, but if you've got any blockages, you can just squeeze out your piping tip on there. So add a few little random purple flowers in here, and I'm just touching down, squeeze, and then come off. Really simple, but really effective. Adds a lovely bit of extra colour and a bit of extra detail. So there we go, that's my little woodland garden with foxgloves, primrose and wood anemone.